Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Healing Conversations. My name is Ainav Avni from Untangled Healing. And a little bit about me, I'm an energy healer and a coach, and I help people to understand or recognize the emotional root cause of their chronic pain and chronic illness. This podcast is all about healing and conversations, and it's there is something here for you. So I really hope that you can sit back, open your heart, and receive the gift that you're no doubt going to get. And let's get started. With me today is the wonderful Lei Mohr. Hi, Lei. I was thinking,
Hi,
oh, did I pronounce your name correctly now? Yes, hello, hello. How are you? So lovely to have you here.
it's an honor to be here with you today.
Thank you, thank you. So let's get started. So tell us a little bit about you.
Okay, well, most people are not too interested in the heavy background, but I had my first near-death experience when I was 21 after the birth of my second child. I had two more, what I will, well, and after that, I had something I call a life-changing experience. Then I had another near-death experience, and then I had a shared death experience. And all of these I now see as a trajectory of my entire life. They were each pieces that needed to be there so that I could get to where I am today. So they all kind of work together, kind of like they are all the same part, or they're all the same, but they are in little pieces. But it's the same experience all the way through.
Wow. So tell us a little bit about how did it come about? How did you end up with the first near death experience, and how did you know that this is what it was, and what did you feel, and what did you find out, and all of that?
Okay. Well, I have to say that though I fought it tooth and nail because I was so scared of it, I had early experiences that I now recognize were part of all of this. Things that were just weird, or different, or they were not what everyone told us we were supposed to have. And so I was like, I'm not going to be weird. I'm going to just push it down like everybody does. But when I got to be 21, I was having a very difficult birth with this child. Um, he kept turning somersaults in my stomach,
Mm.
and yeah, don't do this at home. This it was more than painful, and they kept reaching up inside of me and turning him around to try and get him to come out right and not have any cords wrapped around him. And in the process of that, and I don't blame them, it was a high stress, very, it's not the kind where you, well, let's carefully just figure out what we want to do here. No, this was act, act, act.
Mm.
And after he was born, and he was born, I came down with a very high infection and a fever of 111. I saw it on the thermometer. And people say, well, you can, that's impossible. You would have died. To which I say, of course I did. And I actually was, 111. You're not moving. You're just basically there, if you're there at all. I mean, I'm not supposed to even be there. But I was in the hospital. I sat up on the bed. Now you can't. I can't sit. I sat up on the bed and I looked behind me, and there was my body still sitting back there. And I floated out and into a dark tunnel. It was pitch black, but it was so loving, so inviting, so non-judgmental, so blissful. And it was just, oh, this is so wonderful. And I'm just floating through there. And I got to what I perceive as a room or widening or something. I can't see anything. It's pitch black. But it was something that was a bit wider. And I'm like, oh, this is interesting. But it was still so blissful. And then I heard a voice. And it was the kindest, softest, gentlest I perceived as male voice. And he said, do you want to come now? And I thought, oh, and I just, without even thinking much, I mean, I understood the choice I was making. But I
Mm.
said, I can't. I have two boys to raise. I have to go back. And he just kind of, I felt a nod of a head, but of course can't see anything. And I can't see anybody there. Just very non-judgmental, very accepting. Okay. And I zipped right back down through the tunnel and back into my body. And then the fever broke just like this. And the next day I was out of the hospital. So what I knew from this, what I learned from this was empowerment, that I was here for a reason, that I had a purpose in being here, something to do. And it was because of that, and this happens so often, I hear, that particular marriage dissolved within a year and was gone. He decided that with my new empowerment, he needed to try and physically control me. And I said, maybe the boys and I need to go. And we did. And that was the first one. And I used that since then. I think that was when I actually got the first, if you call it so, power, where people would come to me because of my calming presence and want to talk about all sorts of interesting things. And I didn't understand why. But I do understand now that in whatever I said, something came out that they needed. Mm-hmm. And so that's what happened through the first one.
And it's very interesting for me. I mean, I have heard exactly what you're describing. I've heard that before, and this is really, really. I'm really curious about that. But maybe it's going to come later on in the conversation, because, I mean, I know a famous near-death experience that many people probably know about is the one of Anita Moorjani, that was made famous with Wayne Dyer. And I was really curious with her story, because she says she had that cancer where she was basically already not around, and then going up, coming down, deciding that she wanted to stay, and then the cancer disappeared. And so I'm really curious about what you're saying about understanding that you had a purpose, and then coming back and finding it. And have you found it? I mean, I guess that's the question, because I really, my curiosity is with this thing of all of a sudden we understand something that we didn't before, and now I know, and so this is, maybe you can help me to make more sense of my question.
Okay. For me, I didn't at that time. I mean, this is way back before technology. This is before, you can't just look it up and what is. I was like, whatever this is, and I don't know what was, but I know that if I say anything about it, people are going to think I'm crazy, think I'm lying. They'll think all kinds of things about me. So I just pushed it down inside of me and I hid it. It was there. It was powerful. And it was, but it was not, I mean, I wasn't going to let anybody hear it. And I kept it inside of me for like 20 years before I told anyone. But the empowering part of that, at the time I thought, okay, my purpose is to raise these two children. That was only a small part of my purpose. And the purpose of learning and growing and evolving, I think that's a purpose for all of us. And so that evolved. The whole purpose thing evolved through life, through experience. And I didn't actually, I kind of knew that I was supposed to help people throughout my life. I knew that somehow people liked talking to me because they heard what they wanted, what they needed to hear at the time, even if it wasn't what they wanted.
Yeah.
But they heard it. And so I knew all of this, which made me a really good coach from the very beginning. I didn't know that's what I was. I had no term for it, but that's what I was doing. I wasn't doing it as a business or anything. I was just doing it. And then as life progressed through me and with me, I could realize that things were not happening to me, but for me, and eventually through me. And that's actually the purpose. And I think that's true for a lot of people. I think we're all here to learn and evolve and grow. That's the whole point of being in this little school that we're on.
Yeah.
And so that purpose, and I think it for all of us, it evolves.
And so, what do you mean? What maybe we'll move forward to the next NDA, near this experience, NDE even.
Okay. Well,
And
the next one was very simple, actually, and I don't really even consider it quite an NDE now. I think maybe it was just like a life-changing experience. And I was working in big box retail as a manager. So I was in corporate America, and I got very, very sick, and again, high fever, but it wasn't. I didn't take the fever. I was in bed for 3 days with a high fever, and during that time, I was just sitting there, and I was in bed. It was the middle of summer. I had every piece of clothing or blanket I could on top of me, and I was still freezing. So it was a high fever. I hadn't had anything to eat or anything to drink for 3 days in this state. And I was just sitting there, and this it wasn't exactly the voice, but this thought kept coming through me. It'd be so easy to step over that line. It'd be easy. You could step over that line. You could go. You can. And I'm like, what is this? And in my very weird state, I finally thought, oh, I'm being asked to make a choice here. I need to choose something. And I thought, well, if I'm going to stay, I need a drink of water. So my first act was to roll out of the bed and crawl along the floor, because I was far too weak to do anything else, and go get a drink of water. And what I learned from that was maybe the stress of corporate America is not for me. And that job ended within a year. And so the point there was to start thinking about, what is your purpose? Why are you here? And what are you doing? Are you supporting that purpose, or are you not? And so, okay, that didn't support the purpose, so I moved on. And then a few years later, I came to, and this is the big one, the third experience, which is a true near-death experience. I again got very, very sick. This was 2019, September 2019. So it's the end of the year. And I came down with a fever, but just before that, I kind of felt like I was getting sick. And, we don't stop. We keep going. We got so much to do. And then came on the fever very suddenly. It was a high fever. And I was in bed again for 2 days. And during that time, when I was in bed, I went somewhere else. I have no idea where it was. It was kind of foggy, brown, gray, orange, pink color. And then I couldn't see anything. It was all just kind of foggy. But I could hear them. And there was a bunch of them. And they were chanting to me over and over, "You have done what you came here to do." And I thought, oh, that's so nice. Oh, that's nice. What? And then I instantly came back and was in my body, and the fever broke. But it left me with a permanent physical weakness. I cannot do what I used to do physically, because I'm no longer supposed to. I have done that part. And now I had moved into, I didn't know it at the time. I'm like, if I've done what I came here to do, why am I still here?
Yeah.
And so I kept it, I actually tried to prepare for everything, like, okay, if I'm not going to be here anymore, what would need to be happening? What would need to be done? And I did all of that. But then I was still here. And so it changed from doing to being, or things still get done, but they do so without efforting, without force. And so I had done what I came here to do, but it was a whole complete change. And that's when I started really getting the downloads. And they told me before before 20, whatever it was, right before COVID started, they told me what was going to happen. And by the way, the doctors are now saying that probably this, whatever I had, was early COVID.
Oh,
And so I had practice with what was going to happen first, because I could barely move. I couldn't get off the couch. I couldn't go to, out in stores and such. And I already knew how to do it. So I could help the rest of you when it really did come, when it was
yeah,
a surprise to all of you. It wasn't a surprise to me. I was doing it. But they
yeah,
were also talking through me. They gave me the first quote prediction was, things are going to change. And I thought, okay, I understand that. And then they kept getting a little bit more intense until it was like, you all need to make changes. This is going to be worldwide and it's going to change everything. And that was in about December, right before COVID hit, or before COVID was really acknowledged as hitting.
yeah. And
And
so
it
now,
did change the world.
sorry,
And it did change the world.
it changed the world and everyone in it, of course. I was just wondering, now that you are in the being stage of life, what does that look like for you?
I make a lot more conscious choices as to what I do, how much I do, and why I do it. Is it really necessary? Is it important? And what is really, what matters? Does this matter? And that's a big question. How much of what we do really doesn't matter? How much of how we interact with others really doesn't matter? If we are all one whole, if we are all one parts of the same whole, and we are supposed to work together for the good of the whole, what matters and what doesn't matter?
But how do you judge that?
Through love, and through compassion and love. And if it feels good all the way through on the inside, then it's something to do. If it doesn't feel that way, if it feels stressful, angry, overwhelming, don't do it.
I think to me, that's really interesting what you're saying, because in my walk with people, I try and talk about alignment and harmony and going back to living a life that is completely aligned. And sometimes when I ask the people, I'm kind of asking them to tell me if a certain action that they're doing, if it feels aligned or not. And of course, sometimes people really have no idea what I mean or what align even mean. But when we start talking about them, but they have some sense of it feels right, or maybe it feels that they're walking opposite or against something. So even
Yeah,
if they don't really know much more, this is what they do know.
yeah. And I'm
And
sure you use the tool of the two parts of you talking together. There's the part of you that says, yes, do this, and the part of you that says, no, don't do this. And you sit them down in chairs together and you ask them questions. And a lot of times that can help them clarify. Even if they're not to the point of this oneness thing, that can help them clarify what they need to do. And I'm sure you use that.
well, I actually I don't. I do talk about the two minds. I call it two minds. It's not the right definition, and it's the unconscious mind versus the negative voice. And I'm trying to get people to tell me if they're doing something that feels solid, and the knowing, which is of course the unconscious mind, versus the negative voice, which doesn't know anything, and it's all about the fears and the you know yeah, fears and doing and staying in your comfort zone. But I'm interested in what you're saying, because it kind of sounds similar to something that I'm saying. And so this addition thing that you just mentioned about going all the way down into figuring out if it's coming from love and compassion, and does it actually feel right with me. And a lot of the time people need to basically park their ego before they can even get into that, because they would immediately have a second conversation with them that says, well, yes, it doesn't feel right, but I can't give it up.
And that's what I like about the chair thing is you can actually see that. And I've had a lot of people have really good results with that, even if they're not to the point of thinking about all this other stuff that we really like to talk about and we see is very real, but they may not be to that point yet.
So the activity, the exercise that you're talking about is asking them to sit in a chair and say what feels right about it, and then sit in another chair to literally change position to say what feels wrong about it.
Or just sit two chairs toward each other, and then you stand or sit or whatever. And in one chair is one part of you, and the other chair is the other part of you. And you ask the same question to both of them and find out what answer they say. So, for instance, you want to know if you should take this job. Okay, and you've got the two chairs there, and you ask chair one, should I take this job? And the chair one says, "Oh, you can't do that. It's too big for you. It's you'll never, you're not going to succeed at this. You can't." Go on and on and on. And you look at the other one and the chair, and you ask that one, and the chair says, "It's a good opportunity for growth. You'll learn some things if you do this." And oh, okay, there's the two sides right there. You don't have to even name them. Yes, we know one is the ego and one is the inner self. We know that. They don't have to. If they're not ready for that yet, all they have to know is there's these two sides of me.
Yeah. And so let's move on. I know that there's, as you said, the shared near-death experience. I think that's quite fascinating too.
So now my life has changed dramatically. I know what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to help people, whether it be one-on-one or in groups or on podcasts or whatever. I am to put messages out to people. And I'm going along and doing this, and everything is okay. And I realized that there's a part of me there's something in me that's still holding me back, and I know what it is. I had a very, very difficult childhood. It was by no means pleasant. At one point, my mother almost killed me, and I think she was probably trying to, because she did that. And I realized that it was this mother issue that I needed to deal with. I had no idea how to do it. So I asked, I heard a friend of mine say that she had managed to look at her similar past and see that all of the parts were there so that she could be who she is today. And I thought, that's amazing. I don't know about that. But I couldn't find anything. I couldn't find a way of dealing with it. So I put it out there and I said, okay, help me with this. What do I need to know? How do I do this? And they instantly put me in a place where I was in a theater with a stage, and it was all black in the seats, and I was the only one in the seats. And there was, up on the stage, there were, things happening. And it came to me that not only am I the person in the seats, I am the director, I am the actor. All the other actors are actors acting in my movie, play, whatever you want to call it. I'm also responsible for all the lighting and the sound. I'm everything. And if at any point I want to change what is in that show, I'm also the writer. All I have to do is rewrite it. And I thought, that's interesting. And then I'm watching my life go by, and my mother is there, and I'm like, oh, she loved me enough to come into this life and do what she did so that I could have the foundation to be who I am today. And that changed everything. Everything. I could see her as loving me, and I could get beyond the perceived pain, which was now a past story. I didn't have to live in it anymore. And I could change that to see that every action she did in love, even if it didn't feel like it at the time. And now I could live in joy. I could live in peace. I could live in harmony. And so I'm going along living nicely. And this was happening the summer of 2022. And everything's going along nicely. And then mid-December 2022, I got this weird feeling. Now I have to back up just a little bit. For the last 15 years, my mother had been in prison for killing my sister-in-law, shooting her in the head at point blank range. I had had no contact with her. None of us had had any contact with her. The only contact they had was the name of my brother, the name and whereabouts of my brother, because it was his former wife that she had killed. So nobody knew anything about her. And you know, when she had done the murder, my sister, who is now passed, it took her over the edge. She couldn't handle the pain, and she left. But she was there too, and she was like a supporting actor now. Anyway, so I'm getting all these. I went from joy and nice and everything is good and peaceful and calm to just anxious and jittery and just energy, and nothing I could do would change it. I tried absolutely everything. Nothing helped. And then literally on the third day, the whole thing lifted and was gone into joy and bliss and love. And I thought, what is this? And I was like, whatever it is, I'm liking this part of it, but wow, what is this? And then my brother called me, and he said that our mother, they had just told him that our mother had passed. And I told him what had happened to me, and he said, oh, they called me a couple days ago and said she was in bad shape and she wasn't expected to make it. And I knew then that I had shared her passing. And the reason I was able to share her passing is because I had done the healing work to be able to handle it.
Yeah, well. And
yeah,
so
I can see jitters going all up and down your spine.
yeah, but so did you have a chance to? So you haven't spoken to her after you've done the healing. It was just a healing for you on your side.
Actually, I have. We have a better relationship now than we ever had before. And
Right.
I have done a healing on her. I've done healings for several of my other family members who were, tied into this historical familial trauma in whatever way they were. I've done healings for a lot of them, including my sister and my mother.
Yeah.
And it's really good to be able to see that, do that, handle that. But it continues to also be more healing for me, because the more that I had to break the trauma. Now I have to completely break it all together and keep, all the little parts that needed to be broken are still breaking. But that's what a lot of us, and I'm one of them, we're called transformers, and we come here to transform what was and make it into what is and what will be.
Right. I love that. I love that. And so in life in this realm, you didn't talk to her after you've done your healing, but since then, you've connected with her, and I understand. I have to ask, why should your sister-in-law? What happened?
My sister, we didn't know it at the time, but my sister could not handle the pain of our childhood. It was too intense, too strong for her. And she had tried the best she could to dull the pain with alcohol, but she kept it from all of us. And there came a point in time when her very best friend called me and said, she's in the hospital. Someone needs to be here now. And I said, what? and I went there, and of the entire family, I was the only one with her when she passed. And it was that a family as large as ours, there were 6 kids and, parents and such, that I was the only one there. To me was heartbreaking, but I think that was actually more than she wanted. I think she had it all planned out to go by herself and just,
Right.
you know. But I am forever grateful for that last week with her.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. So I guess just before we're gonna finish for today, you told me that you have a book that came out recently. Share with us a little bit.
There it is. There
Ta-da!
was no fear. Um, and it's it was um, it was ghostwritten through me in about a week. Uh, the guides, the wisdom keepers, uh, got me up and told me I was going to write this book, and I did write this book. And then uh, I would put whatever on the paper that they told me to put on the paper, and then afterwards I'd think, oh, I wonder if I forgot to put that in, and I would go back and look at the manuscript, and there it was. They had put everything in that needed to be there. So it is about everything that I've just talked about, but it is from, quote, my perspective, but it is their words. And it wrote itself in about the space of a week. And it was amazing. It is now, as soon as it was released, it was an international bestseller. And I just hope that it can get the message out to people about healing and some of the tools that I used to heal, so that they can do their own healing, and we all as a world, as a one, can move forward.
I love that message. I really do love that message. Thank you, Lei, for being here with us and sharing your story with us. And of course, I'm gonna share all of your links and everything so that people can look you up and find out more about you. Hopefully, get the book too, and maybe get in contact if that's part of it. Thank you so much. Thank you
Thank you
very
for
much.
having me. It's an honor.
Thank you.